Tonight, I'm Don Lemon. Today when I woke up and saw the emotional interview with the grieving Gold Star widow, Myeshia Johnson, my heart was broken, like most of you. And then moments later, the president tweeted, and I was shocked. I felt compelled to write an open letter to President Trump, and I want to share that letter with you right now. Dear Mr. President, I've interviewed you multiple times. You've introduced me to your family. You've also criticized me publicly, both in front of cameras and on Twitter, calling me hateful, dumb, a lightweight. Some of your friends have suggested you expected better of me, and I'm not sure why you'd expect anything other than fairness and facts first. We know you get a lot of your news from TV. Several of your friends and supporters have told me you watch this show. So since I have this platform, I'd like to speak to you personally right now. I feel compelled to do that after this latest controversy with the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. Your tweet this morning essentially called her a liar. Mr. Trump, please stop it. Please stop. Think of what Sergeant Johnson would want. You are putting his widow in the terrible position of having to fight for her dignity when she should be concentrating on taking care of herself, her health, her 2 children, and the one on the way. I want you to listen to what Myeshia Johnson said this morning.
The president said that he knew what he signed up for, but it hurts anyways. And it made me cry because I was very angry at the tone of his voice and how he said it. Like he couldn't remember my husband's name. The only way he remembered my husband's name because he told me he had my husband report in front of him. And that's when he actually said, LaDavid.
I know you have children. You have 2 daughters. Can you imagine Ivanka or Tiffany in Myeshia's shoes, having a fight with the commander-in-chief while they are pregnant and grieving? If Myeshia Johnson is mad at you, take it, just as President Bush and others did. Take it. It's part of what you signed up for when you decided to descend that escalator and throw your hat in the ring for president. You are the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States of America, the greatest country on earth. Act like it. Act like you know that you're big enough not to have to win every fight or respond to every criticism. Act like you know where the high road is. Competent and secure people ask for help all the time, and they ask for forgiveness. Insecure people think they know everything and need no help. And I want you to think about this. The only Gold Star families you have attacked are people of color. How does that look? Apologize. And I'm going to end with some words to help you do that. You are welcome to use them. And so now I'm going to speak directly to Myeshia Johnson, as you should. Mrs. Johnson, since the president seems incapable of finding the right words, let me speak for the entire country. We are all sorry for what you are going through. All grief is different, and we cannot imagine how deep and profound yours is. We agree with you that LaDavid, your hero husband, was an awesome soldier, a great man, a great American. We know from what has been written about him that he wanted to be someone great, do great things with his life, and he was great, and he did great things. He is a role model to me. When his photos come up on the TV screen or I see them in the newspaper, I am so incredibly proud of him and what he accomplished. And to be extremely candid with you and with the world, as a black man, I'm always looking for role models who look like me. And the latest one I found was your husband, LaDavid. May he rest in peace. And may you find peace when you can finally get a good night's sleep, knowing that this is America. We got your back. Believe that. Signed, me, Don Lemon. Now I want to turn now to CNN senior political analyst Mark Preston, political analyst April Ryan, and military analyst Colonel Cedric Leighton. Sorry. I'm sorry. Welcome, everyone. Mark, thank you all for joining us. Mark, as you just heard, Myesha Johnson, the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, spoke out today saying President Trump made her cry. She said he couldn't even remember her husband's name. And then less than an hour later, he tweeted this. He said, I had a very respectful conversation with the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson and spoke his name from beginning without hesitation. A widow of a fallen soldier says the President of the United States made her cry, and the President responds with a tweet denying it. Why does this President always need to have the last word? Why does he act this way?
Well, Don, before we get to the core of Donald Trump, if you can put that tweet back up, what I think is very important about that tweet that Donald Trump said this morning is at the very end. He writes, and spoke his name from beginning without hesitation, exclamation point, as to not, as to note how much he meant when he sent that tweet about the widow, Myesha Johnson. Why does Donald Trump do this? None of us will ever truly know, but we have seen throughout the campaign, and we have seen now through his first 8 or 9 months in office right now, Don, that Donald Trump doesn't know how to express empathy in a way that normal people do. Donald Trump doesn't realize that his job as leader of the free world, President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, requires that you have to be the bigger man, not some of the time, all of the time. That sometimes that you have to take a punch in the nose and bleed a little bit and walk away from the fight, quote unquote, as the loser. And what we saw from Donald Trump just in the past 12 hours or so is that he's incapable of doing it, Don.
Colonel Layton, you've made similar calls notifying families of casualties. What was that like for you? Is there any good way to make a call like that?
It's very tough, Don, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to put yourself in that family's shoes. You want to be able to not only tell them that you feel for them, but also explain to them what is next. You know, you have certain procedures that the military follows, and you want to explain those procedures, and sometimes it isn't the right time to do that. But what you do is you try to empathize with them, you tell them that you're going to be there for them, and you're going to help them through this process, and that they can call you anytime. That's the kind of thing that you have to do as a commander. It's hard for the President to be available, I think, to all of the fallen soldiers and all the Gold Star families, but nonetheless, the Department of Defense, the military, the respective services all need to do their part in order to make this happen so that families know that they are part of a larger family, and that is the American family.
The President, April, loves to talk about the military. He started the whole controversy with NFL saying that kneeling at a football game was a protest against our troops instead of police brutality. First it was the Khans, and I mentioned this. It's only been 2 Gold Star families that he's attacked that I know of, and they're families of color, the Khans and now Myesha Johnson. How can he claim to support and appreciate our military while disrespecting military families and disrespecting the legacy of their loved ones?
There's a huge contradiction, Don. And you cannot ignore the history of it. You know, when he was running for president, when he was talking about John McCain, Senator John McCain, who's a POW who still carries the battle scars, carries his prisoner of war scars, and he was talking about him being captured, you know, when he was running for president. And then when he was president-elect, this fight, well, not even president-elect, he was the nominee. This fight with the Khan family. And now, you know, it does not bode well for President of the United States, who is the moral leader of this nation. He's supposed to bring comfort and his heart to the situation. And it doesn't play well at a time when, you know, and I talked to someone very close to the family just moments before I came on the air with you tonight. The family is going to find out officially tomorrow if there indeed remains in that casket that Mrs. Johnson met at the airport. They are concerned because all she received is dog tags, and she has not been able to see anything, and she wants to find out, and we're supposed to find out tomorrow from, according to people close or person close to the family, that they're going to find out tomorrow if there's any remains in the casket.
And he's calling her a liar on Twitter. Mark, Myesha Johnson said that she still has questions about how her husband was killed. As you said, she's, as we've heard, she said she didn't even know if there was a body in the casket. We know that his body was was recovered 48 hours after the attack. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Joseph Dunford, spoke to reporters today. Did we get any answers from him?
Well, let's go through what we do know. First of all, this happened on October 4th, so it's been 19 days before we heard from the Joint Chiefs. As you said, General Dunford coming out today. I personally cannot fault him for not having any answers, because clearly the fog of war right now is so dense and they're trying to figure out what has happened. But what we did learn from General Dunford today is, one, he showed empathy and he realized that the American people deserve to know what happened, that the family of the 4 fallen American soldiers deserve to know what happened. But as the facts as we know them right now, they were on their way back from a reconnaissance mission. There was 12 people in their unit. They were ambushed by 50 ISIS fighters. The firefight went on for an hour before they asked for help. A drone was then sent in and started showing aerial photographs. From that point on, French fighters came in about an afterwards, so they're 2 hours into the fight. At that point, in the end though, Don, 4 people, 4 U.S. soldiers dead, 5 Nigerian soldiers dead. And we talk a lot about LaDavid Johnson, as we should, but the other 3 names of these fallen heroes, Dustin Wright, Brian Black, and Jeremiah Johnson, all perished on October 4th. And right now, the U.S. military still has no answers about why they were attacked, how they were attacked, and why it took 48 hours to get LaDavid Johnson's body back into U.S. hands.
I want you all to stick around. We have much more to talk about when we come back. Proving that a war hero never